Hi friends, welcome back to Calm in the Chaos Homeschool. So today I wanted to talk about my morning basket and what we have been doing in my morning basket for term 2. So I like to split my year up into 3 terms. So roughly I'd say 11 to 12 week terms, and we are approaching the end of term 2. So I'm going to be making my series, my term 2 review series, and I'm going to start with my morning basket today. The next video is going to be on our family subjects, so the things that I do with all 4 of my kids who are in 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th grade. And then after that, I'm going to be following that up with what I'm doing for each of my kids more independently at their grade levels. So the morning basket is all 4 of my kids as well, and so it's very similar to our family subjects, but the morning basket is more of a random collection of things that we do, including Bible. And then our family subjects are more of the more traditional subjects that we do in a rotation after we do our morning basket time. So I hope that explains okay what I mean by morning basket and family subjects. So I have my cart here. You can't really see what's in it here, but I'm going to go through and show you what I have in here and what we finished this last term, and just kind of let you know how things have been going. So first of all, when we start our morning basket time, the first thing we do is we watch World Watch News. I've been talking about World Watch News for about 1.5 years now. We really enjoy World Watch News because it's only 10 minutes each day, but it does keep us up on current events. I'm not really one to watch the news or really care to stay updated very often, but I am really enjoying World Watch News, and I am enjoying sort of knowing what's going on in the world before I learn from Facebook or Instagram, which is normally how I get my news. But World Watch News is biblically based, and so they do keep an emphasis on God and his plan, and how no matter what's happening in the world, they say the purpose of the Lord will stand. But they do a nice mix of current events as well as other little feature stories about interesting tidbits and things like that. And it really keeps my kids' attention. So that is what we start with. It's a really good motivator. We start our morning basket about an hour into our school day. And for one child in particular, the fact that we're starting World Watch News in an hour and he needs to finish a certain amount of work before he gets to join us for World Watch News, it's a big motivator for him. So that is what we start our day with. Next, we go into Bible. And so what we have been doing for Bible this whole year is not consumed. We started with God's story, a story through the Old Testament, and then towards the end of the school year, in January, we have started a study through the New Testament. So we're currently on day 8 of this. It's 2 Corinthians. There are about 25 lessons. So not a lesson per book of the Bible, but generally it follows that pattern. So generally there's a day on each book of the Bible. And what I really enjoyed about this series is we started in the Old Testament, and it really just takes you through the whole story of the Bible. So each day you're looking at a book or 2 or 3, and you're learning about what the main point of that book is and how it all points to Jesus. So this is currently our group Bible study that we've been doing. After that, I'm going through a rotation of 3 other books. So each day I will pick up one, and we just sort of go in a rotation. One book that we did finish this last term was Indescribable. We really enjoyed that. We did spend several years finishing up that because of just the slow pace that we go. One book that we're doing this year is The Radical Book for Kids. We are maybe 1/4 of the way through, not quite, so we probably won't finish it this year. We do enjoy it. It's a little bit disjointed maybe. It doesn't really follow a certain pattern on what you're learning. So it's like you learn different things each day, and one lesson does not necessarily lead into the next, but they are interesting lessons, and they're sort of like apologetics sort of things. So we have been enjoying that. One that we started probably this term was The Kingdom Strikes Back. This is interesting. It is also talking about the story of God and how God is trying to work through Israel to spread the news of him and Jesus to the world, and how people are so reluctant to do it. So God uses any means possible to spread his word all over the world. And so we are maybe about halfway through this one, and that one's been interesting. This is the one I'm going to do next after we're done The Kingdom Strikes Back, because as you can see, it's super, super thin. So we're about halfway through that. And then I'm planning on starting this one after that. So Mary Jones and her Bible. So I don't know anything about that, but that is what we're going to be starting in third term once we're finished The Kingdom Strikes Back. And then our third one that we rotate through is It Couldn't Just Happen, Knowing the Truth About God's Awesome Creation. And I really like this. It talks about science, and it talks about different things in science to just show that God is real, and how science points to God, and how some things that we might think in the world may be wrong because of evidence. So this has been really good. I've really enjoyed this one. It's gone really well with our theme this year. I feel like we're doing a lot of science type things and how science actually points to God. Okay, so something else that we have finished this past term, and so we are not doing this anymore, are these virtue cards. So I got a set, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago. It's called We Choose Virtues. And I'm just remembering, I'm going to link everything in the description box below if you want to take a look. But this came with a curriculum. It came with worksheets, came with these 12 cards. Ended up, these are the only things we're using, are these 12 cards. And so there's different virtues here. I am forgiving, I am honest, I am perseverant, I am self-controlled. And what we were doing was we were spending about 2 or 3 weeks on each of these cards. I would go through like 2 rotations of my morning basket. And so I might read this the first time, and then there are different things on the back to do. So we have define, discern, dream, detect, and do it. And so there's like quizzes to help the child determine how good they are at this virtue. There's different things to think about, like how is this virtue going to affect your future and things like that. So this is something that we're done. So this is no longer in our morning basket. Something that I have just recently added, because I did ask for this from my parent partnership program and they didn't give it to me, and I didn't realize it was missing until I was planning next year, and so I asked for it since I never got it, is this. So vocabulary cartoons. Kids learn a word a minute and never forget it. And so I've heard of this from various homeschoolers, of course, and basically you have each day or each page, you have something like this. So this says, wean, to withdraw from any type of habit sounds like teen. And then there's a funny little saying, how to wean a teen away from the family telephone. It's a little bit older, obviously, that telephone. And then it has some sentences using the word. And so the whole idea is that using a picture and a little short saying, the student can learn the meaning of words. I would say these words are pretty basic words. The next level up is SAT words. So these are before SAT type words. That being said, this is a really good fit for the mid-range of my kids. So I would say probably one of my children probably knows a lot of these words, whereas the other 3, these are mostly new words for them. And so it will have 10 different words in a row, and then they do have a little quiz. And so we have just started this. We've only done 1 quiz so far, so I can't tell you how well my kids are retaining the words, but I just photocopy the quizzes, and then when we're done the words, then I'm giving them the quiz. And I'm doing 3 of these words a day. So we really do morning basket 3 times a week because we are only home 3 times a week. And so those are the 3 days a week that we do this. So we get through almost 1 group of 10 words a week, roughly. Not exactly, but approximately. So this is something new that I've added, and I am doing this daily. So after Bible, I'm going and doing the vocabulary words. Okay, so next here, and this is in no particular order after this, I have a rotation of the next things. So I'll usually do about 2 of these things. So I'll do Bible, I'll do vocabulary, and then I'll do 2 of these other things that I'm showing you. So the next thing I have is the thinking toolbox. This is 35 lessons that will build your reasoning skills. This has been a really fun addition to our morning basket. It is a lot of fun. So each lesson is like this. So how to list reasons why you believe something. And there is about, I don't know, 4 pages maybe talking about the skill, the reasoning skill. There's 5 pages of there. And then there's some exercises that we've just been doing verbally. And it's been lots of fun. So we've talked about things like opinion, fact, and like inference, things like that. We've talked about the difference between a discussion, a disagreement, an argument, and a fight. So this has been really perfect level for my kids, mostly middle schoolers at this point. This has been a fun addition to our morning basket. And what I took out of our morning basket, because we finished, and to make room for this, was this, the Tuttle Twins Guide to Logical Fallacies. We spent quite some time going through this, and I've said before, I like it okay. It goes through the fallacies. This is my favorite part, I think, just the front page, the description, and then the little comics or whatever showing what the fallacy is. And then they normally have sort of a little more about the fallacy. They have a situation that they show with Ethan and Emily, who are twins. And then they talk about what happened and how the fallacy is showing up in that conversation. And then they have the Tuttle twin takeaway. So this was okay. I'm definitely enjoying this one a lot more than the logical fallacies one that we were doing before. Okay, next I have 13 things strong kids do. Think big, feel good, and act brave. And this is sort of a mindset book. I've talked about it before. We started it at the end of last year. Here's the table of contents. So we've done, they stop feeling sorry for themselves, they empower themselves, they adapt to change, they focus on things they have control over, and right now we're learning about they know when to say no. So we are probably about 2/3 of the way through this. I have been enjoying this. It is definitely not based on the Bible. And so there was one situation where I was talking about worrying, and what they say about worrying and what the Bible says about worrying are different. So we talked about the differences between what they say you should do if you are worried about something and what the Bible says you should do. And so just like normal things, different things come up, and based on what you believe, then you just have a discussion with your kids. But overall, I have really enjoyed this book. I think it has a lot of great tips for kids who need some help with some mindset things. All right, next I have this financial literacy book for grades 6 to 8. I picked this up because I feel like last year a lot of homeschooling parents were doing it. I am enjoying it. We are about 1/3 of the way through. We will probably not finish it this year, but they have a lot of different fun things. So we have, like, usually starts with a story. This is on making and following a budget. They'll have vocabulary. They have like little activities. And then they have more specific budgeting activities for this one here. So they have a few different pages that go with each topic. And then they have a new topic. So then the next topic is using banks. So actually the topics that this book goes through, we have buying and selling at the store, earning money at a job, making and following a budget, using banks, paying to have a car, making and taking out loans, using money in different countries, buying and using insurance, saving for retirement, and making money in investments. And I do think that the grades 6 to 8 is very appropriate. It is very good level for my kids. So it's been good. It's been fun to talk about finances and a budget in this sort of hands-on way. My older 2 girls who are in 8th and 9th grade, they're going to be doing a personal finance course or semester coming up. And so that is just going to build upon what we are learning here. But this is a great introduction to financial literacy for kids in the middle school ages. So next, I usually have some kind of poetry in our morning basket. I have really enjoyed doing poetry. I wasn't one who really loved poetry before homeschooling, but I am enjoying a lot of the poetry suggestions from Bookshark or Sunlight. We are hardly anywhere through this at all. So We probably read about 4 pages each time we do this, and we do that like once a week. So this book is humongous. I'm not sure how long we will be going through this, but these have been good poems. We have been enjoying them. So this is a good one if you want to have a poetry book that's going to last quite a while. Next, I always like to have a fairy tale or folklore section of my morning basket. And so we have been studying Africa in our geography this year. We started out with Southeast Asia, and then we did Africa, and we're going to be moving into Australia and New Zealand pretty soon. But while we were doing Africa, we had these 2 books that are Book Shark books. So we had Beat the Story Drum, Pum Pum. So this was interesting. It's just a folklore story, different stories from different places in Africa. And then we had this as well. So this is Ashanti to Zulu African Tradition. This is like an A to Z book, and it just talks about different African traditions using the letters A to Z. And so those 2 are when we were studying Africa, and we're sort of towards the end of that. And so our next folklore fairy tales thing that I decided to add is Favorite Greek Myths by Mary Pope Osborne. We did her Tall American Tales, her book like this on Tall American Tales, and I liked how she did the American Tales. And so we are now doing Greek myths. We are currently in ancient and medieval history this year. So I decided that we were going to do, this is how we're going to cover some of the myths and just, yeah. So it has some pictures, and then it has these stories. The stories are very short, so I like that. They're only like 4 pages long. So not too long. We don't have to spend forever reading the stories. So that is what we are currently doing for our folktale, fairy tales, myths sort of category of our morning basket. So this next thing is something that honestly I just started today. So it's more a term 3 item, but I did want to start this. So this is History Smashers, Women's Right to Vote. This is our first History Smashers book that we've ever done. At the beginning of this year, we were doing an elections unit, and so we did a lot of talking about elections, and this is just a book that I picked up based on some recommendations. So it looks like a very fun little short book, has pictures. Each chapter is quite short. There are 10 chapters, and obviously it's going to talk about the process of women's right to vote. So far we read the first chapter. It was good. I liked the length. It was entertaining enough, and it didn't take too long to finish the chapter. So that's always a plus for us. And so, yeah, so that is something that we have just started. Okay, so that is sort of my morning basket section. And then I usually end our morning basket time with our read aloud. And so I have 3 read alouds here. So the first one that we did, I think we finished it up right before Christmas, is It's Trevor Noah, Born a Crime. So I read this because it was based on a suggestion from Guest Hollow, our geography. Like I said, we're studying Africa. I am going to say that this is a book that I might not have read to my kids had I pre-read it. So I wanted to let you know that, since I did tell you I was going to be reading this with my kids. I think at that point when I made my last video, we had just started, and I said the first chapter was a little iffy. It was a little iffy for the age range of my kids. We did finish it. However, there are times when I wish that we didn't read it. I think that it is appropriate for high school, maybe 10th, 11th, 12th grades. I didn't love it for especially my middle school boys. There's some examples in there that are not the best. Yeah, so this is one that if you are considering doing in your homeschool, I do suggest you pre-read to yourself before deciding whether or not it is appropriate. And it's one of those things, like, we reread it. It was like the information was good. It gave me a good idea of what it was like in South Africa, but there were just some stories and examples that were not my favorite. And so, like, I would have been fine with my maybe daughters reading this on their own, but I didn't love reading it aloud to my boys. But I hate stopping things when they're in the middle of something and it had enough to keep us going, but then it had a few points where it's like, oh, I don't think I would have chosen to read this had I pre-read it. So just a heads up on that one. So next, I wanted to read something lighthearted and fun at the beginning of the year after our break. So I read The Adventures of Sir Balin, the Ill-Fated, a very short little book. This is a history suggestion from Book Shark G, and it was a silly little story about this knight who had like a prophecy on him that he was going to, like this horrible prophecy that everything around him was going to go bad. And in the end, he discovered that he didn't have to listen to that, and he could just, yeah, if he didn't believe in it, it wasn't going to happen. So sort of something like that. So that was kind of just a fun, lighthearted book to start the new year with. And now in our junior anatomy that we have been doing for years and years and years, this is our third year continuing with junior anatomy. We have gotten to learning about infectious diseases and things like that. And so I read this book not a few years ago. So Fever 1793. And I thought it would be a good fit for what we were learning. So this is the Spanish flu in Philadelphia during 1793. And so I decided we were going to do this book. So this book is one that we've just started, and I have listened to the audiobook before, and I did like it. And I did want to do it with my kids at some point. So I thought I would pull that out since that is what we're learning about in health right now. So that is it. That is what I have in my morning basket at the end of this term 2, and how things are going for us so far in this area. If you have any questions for me, let me know in the comment section below. I will link everything I mentioned here down below, so if you want to take a look. Thank you so much for coming today. Don't forget to come back for my family subjects and then my kids' independent work and all of the things that they're doing this second term. Just letting you know how things are going. So thanks for coming today, and I hope to see you all in a future video. Bye, everyone.